Danganronpa, Trigger Happy Havoc, is a visual novel adventure game developed by Spike Chunsoft that blew up into a whole franchise of sequels, spin-offs, and adaptations across various mediums, with a large Western fanbase to boot, even before an official localization of the first game came out in the West. Before delving into the franchise, I've heard mixed things about it, mostly relating to toxic fans and how inconsistent the writing quality can be. I also had the final boss of the first game spoiled to me thanks to, of all things, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Wishlist. Still wish we got a Monokuma Mii costume though, that would have been fun. I finally decided to play the first game this year, since I always find the character designs appealing, and I love a good battle royale / death game story. Then, when I finished the first chapter, I thought to myself these exact words. Oh no, I love Daganronpa. Danganronpa 1 follows Makoto Naegi, the player character, the lucky guy who's been accepted into the prestigious Hope's Peak Academy, where the students are handpicked for being quote-unquote ultimate in a specific field, like sports, or fashion, or writing, or being the jerkiest jerk to ever jerk. I really need to work on my phrasing. There, Makoto is met with his 14 other classmates who find that they can't escape the academy, and are soon commanded by the devilish yet marketable mascot bear, Monokuma, to kill each other in order to have a chance to escape to the outside world. Now, when conceptualizing this video, I had a hard time on how to structure it. Do I go through DR chapter by chapter? Well, NezumiVA did it, and did it damn well. I ultimately decided that since Daganronpa is very character-focused, I'd focus on the characters when analyzing its writing and narrative qualities. Before I focus on the students, I want to touch on Monokuma briefly, since he doesn't really have an arc, but still plays an important role as the headmaster of the killing game. Monokuma is a crazy fun villain that you want to see put down a peg for all the hell he puts the students through, yet he's still weirdly endearing for his wacky humor despite reveling in all the horrible tragedy and sins he's committing. Monokuma is definitely the reason why a lot of people check out Daganronpa, which is fitting for his marketable mascot appearance, but the thing that gets people invested in this franchise are the student characters. As for those students, we'll start with Makoto Naegi, the ultimate luck, our protagonist character, and he's serviceable in this role. His inner monologue fleshes him out to be more than a blank slate audience insert, and works well as the straight man to everyone else's over-the-top and wacky personas. Saika Mizuno, the ultimate pop sensation, is the first character to be murdered, though I still find her one-chapter story very compelling. When first being told that she's locked in the school, she has a breakdown, as even if she escapes, she might lose her career she fought all her life to get. Though things get more interesting when we learn the reason she got murdered. She was gonna murder Leon. She fails, so Leon murders her back, but in her final moments, Saika left a clue for Makoto, who she formed a close bond with in the first chapter. Saika's story makes for a strong start to Danganronpa, with how initially she seems like a cute but one-note bubbly idol girl, but we soon unravel the layers that make her a flawed yet human character, which is something Danganronpa attempts for most of its roster. Leon Kawada, the ultimate baseball star, might be a bit underdeveloped for being the first culprit of murder, but I still find him very fascinating, as despite being a baseball star, he wants to quit and pursue music instead, which is a very natural thing for a teenager to want to do since they're still figuring themselves out and want to try new things. And sometimes that means rejecting your old hobbies and interests. Yotaka Ishinomaro, the ultimate moral compass, is in my opinion one of the best characters in DR1. Which makes me even more mad on how he got treated in Chapter 3, but let's take this a step at a time. Kiyotaka is very entertaining, with a loud yet commanding presence, which leads to him forming a rivalry and later friendship with another loudmouth character known as Mondo Awada. However, Mondo kills someone and gets executed, which leaves Kiyotaka in a depressive state till he's motivated into a super form. He dies the same chapter he gets the super form. Like, what the hell was the point of introducing the super form in the chapter if you're gonna kill off the character who gets it? Was it for comedy? Was it a red herring? Did you just not want Kiyotaka to die sad? Either way, Kiyotaka is still one of my favorite characters in this game despite his lackluster death. Shihiro Fujisaki, the ultimate programmer, is quite the controversial character due to presenting as female but ended up revealing that they're biologically male, with Shihiro's motivation of wanting to present as male again since they present as a female to prevent being bullied for being weak. Presenting as female led to the popular headcanon of Shihiro being a trans girl by some of the Danganronpa fanbase, and apparently this has led to many heated arguments, so I guess I'll have to give my quick hot take. Shihiro isn't a trans girl, but I think a reading of him as agender or non-binary is serviceable if you still want that rep. Whee! This being said, while some of his stories poorly showcased in the game, especially how they reveal that Shihiro's a boy, I still really love Shihiro and his story despite the stumbling blocks it goes through. It's very admirable for a character to see this horrific killing game and want to improve themselves to help out. Shihiro even develops a program called Alter Ego, which serves as a a vital asset to the student's survival. While I wish his story was represented better in-game, Shihiro's still one of my favorite characters in DR1 for his cute mannerisms, contribution to the plot, and gripping motivations. Mondo Awada, the ultimate biker leader, is a quick-to-anger yet apologetic young man with a lot of expectations on him, being the biggest biker gang leader in Japan after taking over for his older brother, who he blames himself for killing as he died in a race between the two. He's probably the most sympathetic of any of the guilty murderers, since he kills Shihiro out of a fit of rage due to seeing Shihiro stronger than him for wanting to improve himself, which is quite tragic. Byakuya Tagami, the ultimate affluent prodigy, which basically means he is the heir to the most successful corporation in the world, and to put it simply, he's a jerk operating by discounting the emotions of others and wanting to be the only supreme winner of the killing game. He is a massive yet entertaining prick in the first half of the game, to the point where finding a dead body and changing its placement to make it the trial more interesting, though he starts to form humility in the second half of the game, where his arrogance of thinking he's got all the answers is shattered. FUKAWA, the ultimate writing prodigy, initially seems like an antisocial wreck with weird ideas of romance thanks to being degraded a lot in real life, but in the second chapter, we learn she has an alternate serial killer personality who has some of the most absurd jokes in the game. While this does lead her character to fall under a few unfortunate mental health stereotypes, I still think TOKO is a fun, if flawed, character. Hifumi Yamada, the ultimate fanfic creator, is a stereotypical perverted otaku. I'm not a fan of this character archetype, but I found it clever how he got manipulated to killing and then got killed himself, which was morbidly amusing. Celestine Ludenberg, the ultimate gambler, seems a bit shallow on the surface, with her lust for money being the thing that gets her to do murdering, but I do find her enjoyable with how her elegance is all part of a facade and she maintains it out of a fantasy she has of being royalty, and how that facade cracks during her trial. She's not a good person, but a character I like seeing the antics of, even if chapter 3 was a slog to get through. Sakura Ogami, the ultimate martial artist, is a gentle giant who turns out to be working with Monokuma in order to keep her family dojo safe. She does realize the error of her ways, betrays Monokuma, and uses her suicide in order to rally the surviving students to work together instead of continue the killing game, which is very sad, but ends up working out, as afterwards, the rest of the students work together instead of killing each other, meaning their sacrifice worked in the end. Aoi Asahina, the ultimate swimming pro, has a lot of energy, which is great for swimming, but not so great for focusing on everyday conversation. While I'm not the biggest fan of Aoi, she's okay, and her relationship with Sakura was wholesome. Yasuhiro Kagure, the ultimate clairvoyant, is a dumb dude, and that's about it. I don't get why he was one of the last surviving members of the cast, since he doesn't really contribute much. In fact, he causes more problems than he fixes, so I don't think I like him. Might be my least favorite character in DR1. JUNKO Shima, the ultimate fashionista, dies in chapter 1. Or does she? Yes, she is the mastermind behind the killing game, and she is hilarious. My favorite detail about her is that she let boredom and apathy take over, which leads to her constantly switching her mannerisms and vocal inflections throughout the confrontation with her. Her nihilistic outlook on the world is haunting, yet a perfect counterpoint to the message of hope Danganronpa wants to impart on the player. KYOKO Kirigiri, the ultimate detective, is who I'd call the secondary protagonist of DR1, as she is often the first character to take action and find clues. She seems distant towards the other characters at first, but she also is the student who is arguably the most heroic next to Makoto. The reason she came to the school in the first place was to find out what happened to her father, who was the headmaster of the academy. KYOKO and her dad have a complicated relationship, which makes the scene in the game where she figures out what happened to him one of the best scenes in the game. Overall, Danganronpa has a solid cast of characters. Sure, a good chunk of them could have been handled better than how they were, but out of the 15 students, I only dislike 2, which I view as a win. Probably helps that the character designs and art style is very appealing. I don't know what is it about Danganronpa's art direction that makes it feel distinct from any other anime style games. I think it's the shading or the eyes, but it's a great looking game. In terms of gameplay, while a lot of Danganronpa is primarily a visual novel, when a murder happens, you're thrusted into discovering clues which take the form as truth bullets and taking them to trial. The visual of shooting a truth bullet to contradict an opposing statement is really cool, and the minigames you play in between are quick yet refreshing changes of pace, though I'm not a big fan of the absorb bullet mechanic since it feels a bit random for my liking outside of a really clever instance in the last trial of the game. Once you've successfully finished the trial and outed the murderer, then you get the murderer's execution sequence, which that's a bit much, fellas. The execution scenes are visually well put together and fit with Danganronpa's extreme yet morbid sense of humor and tone, but these sequences are a bit much for me and I usually skip them. Like the fact that they turned Mondo Awada, one of my favorite characters, into butter. Mondo butter, and let's go to the end, fellas. Let's wrap this up. While Danganronpa is far from perfect, indulging in some weird narrative choices or iffy tropes, it still has a lot of great elements to it, like its over-the-top yet layered cast of characters, its stylish presentation, action, and its strong conflicts of hope and despair. Danganronpa does show a lot of the awful aspects of humanity through the killing game, yet still preaches a message that we can overcome hardship through unity and self-reflection. The cynical view might boil it down to cheesy shonen power friendship bullshit, but I love that bullshit, dang it! Bias of the trope aside, I think it works really well in Danganronpa, because even with all the horrifying events we've gone through, the player is left with a good feeling by the end, because we won. We overcame and survived one of the worst scenarios a high schooler can go through. I'll definitely try to take a look at the rest of the Danganronpa series sooner than later, but if you like this video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and ring the bell. I'll see you fellas later for when I find the time to make another video. I don't know, it's been a weird month.